easily the #1 unsolicited, asked about thing that you guys put in the comments below in all my videos happens to be this backpack that I've been using for, you know, who knows how long at this point. It's really been with me on pretty much every video that I've done on the way to the shop. There's never been a day that I didn't have this on my back. So I can kind of see why you got to a point where you just had to wonder what it was. It's an old discontinued Giro product. It's called the Giro Commuter. Simply put, it's a dry bag. It's a big, open top, roll down dry bag. And for the time that I was working at the shop, it served its purpose perfectly. My #1 concern when commuting to work wasn't to keep myself dry, and was making sure that my laptop and this camera did not get wet. That was it. This bag, because it was a dry bag, roll top, dry material, welded everywhere, did that beautifully. I don't necessarily know that I could give it a great score on really any of the other stuff. Hiking or doing any sort of recreational riding with this thing is just not that great. There's no ventilation on the back. There's not really a whole lot of places to just like store random things like bottles or small stuff. It all just would have to kind of live in that big bag area. There's a couple zippers on it, but like nothing that's accessible without stopping and grabbing things. Like you can't do this with it. This bag is for getting to and from somewhere, being sweaty with it, but making sure that whatever's in there is dry. Ugh, it's just so big and annoying. But thanks to your guys' curiosity about that bag in the comments below, I've since been upgraded to something a lot nicer to use. And that is this bag from a company called Low Alpine. So this was sort of presented to me as a like do everything bag, something that you can use for hiking, something you can use for commuting, something you can use for mountain biking. Sounded kind of too good to be true, to be honest, but I sort of jumped at the opportunity to get a new bag for my new commute because getting to work with a sweaty back is sort of sucky. So when I get back here later today, we'll talk about this a little more. I can't help but want to ride these again. Ian hasn't been asking for them back yet, but I'm sure he will soon. It's still a campy 11-speed cassette with a Shimano 11-tooth cog on a now all 10-speed setup. I don't have a whole lot of faith in it. It's kind of been a long time since my last commute into work portion of the vlog. And, well, to be honest, this one's gonna be fairly short. Quite a bit less fun than what I used to do. Not to mention way busier and way more dangerous. So I tend to not pull the camera out for the way in. Now, not working at a bike shop anymore, obviously the commute thing is a little more difficult to do because I'm not actually able to vlog at work, and it feels weird to like do a commute in, have a big gap, and be riding home. Kind of like today. But I do want to take a minute to mention the fact that my ride home now gives me 3, maybe 4 options to go for a pretty amazing road ride home. I can take my morning commute in, which I've never done, which is about 8K. I can ride a quick 12K home on a pretty decently flat trail if I want to ride quick. I could take this loop that I'm doing right now that you've seen in the vlog numerous times with that moose and everything and the beach and whatnot. This is about 23K. And then I could take this loop, sort of, you know, offshoot route, and add another 20K to it pretty easy, which will still loop me back to the house, which gives me about like 45, if I wanted to, 50 kilometers of road riding after work. That's not something I was ever really able to do leaving the shop before, because it was such a straight shoot home. All the good riding would have been past my house, and I really don't have the motivation to see my house and go buy it. And this way I can pack a bunch of stuff in my bag and go to work, get changed, and do a decent ride home. This, as I'm sure you all sort of would guess, is shifting like total trash. I'd do the snap my fingers thing, and then I'd be changed, but I'm not that good of an editor, so So let's take a second to dive into what this bag has to offer over the Giro bag that I had been using for the last 2 or 3 years. The Aeon 27 is a 27-liter capacity bag made out of an abrasion-resistant nylon. Low Alpine boasts that they've got this tri-shield technology that also helps with tear and abrasion resistance. That's sort of exciting for me because I go mountain biking in very granite-filled trails, and I tend to go over the bars 1 out of every 10 times. I've done it a couple times with this thing. It has held up totally fine, but this thing, when you do crash, tends to do this and go over. This, with the lap belt and the chest belt, will actually sort of stay in place. Which brings me to my next feature on the Aeon 27, the lap belt and the chest belt. That Giro bag did have the lap belt and chest belt, but you had to run them so tight that you couldn't even really breathe to keep the bag in place. This I run fairly loose, and this sometimes I actually don't even use the chest piece too much. This keeps the bag in place well enough that I know that it's not going anywhere, and it's also not impeding my breathing at all. All that to say, I'm excited for my first crash with this bag on. The front does have a large pouch that you can fit what you want in. There's a pair of glasses there, and it does actually have them on the side as well. It's just an elastic, breathable pocket that you could fit like a water bottle in, and then the same thing on the other side. I was putting water bottles in here a couple days when I was riding my fixed gear into work, which was nice because I tend to not bring hydration with me on that bike, which is all the way over there, because it doesn't have bottle cage bosses. There's also a bit more in the way of pockets. There's this one here on the front, you know, that I keep, you know, car key in or whatever. And then the main compartment of the bag actually opens up really quite large, almost enough that you could consider it almost a duffel bag. You can get into everything pretty easy. I'm not gonna lie, at first I didn't actually like that very much, but as I've got stuff in here that is just gonna kind of live there all the time, I like it more and more. The back of this bag, like most mountain bike hiking bags, does have some sort of ventilation built in. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't necessarily notice that it did a great job of keeping me from sweating super hard. And it does have access to put in a hydro pack, which I'm pretty excited about. So it'll double up as a commuter bag and as a mountain bike bag. Probably my favorite feature is the lap belt having pockets right here that I can keep my camera in and get to very easily while riding and vlogging. Now, one thing that I wish it did have, that this bag does have, this doesn't, is a sleeve for your laptop. Now there's probably only one other key element that I'd like to bring up about this bag that I like a lot more than that Giro Commuter bag. It's that I do immensely prefer the way this looks and fits on my back. And if you know me, you know that a lot of my decisions are based purely on vanity. And it's funny the way that vanity has an ability to make me want to go ride more. When I was commuting with this bag, I had zero ambition to want to go do a long ride with it on my back after work. This thing fits so well and looks decent enough and isn't so big and bulky that I actually don't mind having it on my back with me on a long ride home. So that to me is probably the biggest and best trade-off. All right, so that concludes that video of the introduction of my new backpack that I'm going to be using, the retirement of the old one that you've all asked about so much. Thank you for the new gear, Low Alpine. I do appreciate it. If you do want to check out more about the Aeon 27, the bag that I'm using right now, I'm going to link it below so that you can kind of check it out. I wasn't able to do that with the Giro Commuter because it was discontinued. So if you're curious about the gear I'm using, it's always linked down below. And also for those of you who have watched videos where I said that I was sitting in traffic a lot and driving to work, that was only because we were getting the house renovated and the car needed to be out of the way. Back to riding pretty well every day.